Hey guys, it's Brandon, your GTA home guy, and today we're going to talk about something super important to everyone who has to move. What is it? That's right, it is what to do before closing and how to leave your home in great form. Let's get to it. Seriously, let's get into it. Okay guys, first thing is clean is a very subjective term. You want to make sure that you leave the place that you're selling clean for the buyer. Why? Not just because it's an insane reflection of your quality and your character, but because you could have legal liability, especially if a condition, or rather a clause, was added saying that you were going to leave the place in broom swept condition. What does that mean? Oh, a broom could sweep through, a broom did sweep through, a broom swept through just one trail the whole way through the property. What does it mean? Well, quite honestly, most of the times buyers are not going to have a lot of recourse to come after you for that, but don't be a douchebag. Leave your home in good shape. What do you think about that? Is that clear enough? Hey, you know what? If you wouldn't like it if your next house looked like this when you got in, don't do it to the other person. Now, sometimes I know it's not being a douche that does it, but it just comes down to the fact that there are time constraints and you forgot to leave enough time. In that case, what I would do is be somebody with ethics and integrity and say, hey, you know what? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I know that this comes as a surprise, but your home, your beauty that you just bought is a disaster. My bad. I'm going to hire a cleaning crew to come in like right now and get it done. Just get on the phone with every cleaning crew you can and have it done, because these buyers paid you a lot of money not to clean your trash, right? So make sure that you leave it in good state, because honestly, nothing sullies a really exciting day than taking ownership from somebody who has left a ton behind or left things dirty. I mean, seriously, just wipe off the counter. It's not that hard, but I know it's time consuming. If you don't have the time to do it, pay for somebody who does. Cleaning crew. That's the biggest thing. Now, minor wear and tear. What are we gonna do with it? It happens, scrapes, scuffs, things that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot we put that rug down because there's a scratch in the floor. Those sorts of things you want to disclose to the buyer prior to them buying if you know they exist, so that there's no recourse after the fact. Also, you want to make sure that those things are disclosed in writing, because you don't want the buyer coming back on you of something you said, hey, there's a scratch under there, please take note of that, and then them say, no, they didn't, and hey, they've got brand new flooring on you after you leave the place. So make absolutely certain that every single thing that is a big item is disclosed. If something's not working properly, anything like that. Now, one of the things that's wear and tear that people often wonder, what do we do here? Screw holes, nail holes, any holes that hold things up. All those pretty pictures that you bought from IKEA have to go with you. But what doesn't is the hole that you left. What do you do then? Honey, do we still have that paint here? No, I swear I'd never paint anything that color again, and we burned it. Don't burn paint, you will kill the atmosphere, I think. I think the atmosphere is still endangered. Don't do it. So anyway, you want to make sure that you leave your house in a great state, but the problem is all those little holes. What do? Leave those darn things in. If you're going to leave nails or screws, leave them in the wall with the anchor. Don't try and pull it out and be like, okay, well, we've done half the job, unless you're able to do the whole job, which is patch, sand it, make it look good, paint it over again. I just had a home that we walked through prior to closing where that homeowner took an insane amount of pride and made holes disappear that I was certain were going to be there to some regard. Excellent work. If you can do that, do that. The buyer will love you, but more so they will love their new home. We don't want to make somebody's awesome day of excitement just crash with, oh my gosh. Now, quick side story, when I got my first home, it was riddled with holes and full of trash because a tenant was clearing out and they didn't have enough time to clean up, and it was a horrendous nightmare. And I learned something that day that lawyers say, well, you can chase them, But what's going to happen otherwise? And you'll spend a lot of time, money, effort, energy as a buyer chasing the seller and maybe not getting exactly the benefit that you had hoped from it. So be very careful. As far as going back to broom swept condition, that's something that's in a lot of offers in my area, the Greater Toronto area, but it may not be common where you are. What you want to look into is making sure that if there's any specific method that can insulate you from claim from the buyer, that you approach it that way. If it is saying, yes, you generally need to get your home professionally cleaned to turn it over to the buyer, just to make sure that you have a receipt saying, hey, look, we did this, we did it right, you can't come after us. But again, find out what is specifically in your area and very normal that way. Now, key transfer, how the heck does that work? There's a lot of different ways to do it. Most times it used to be that the keys would get dropped off at the seller's lawyer would drop it over to the buyer's lawyer would then say, hey, real estate agent or buyer, come over and pick these keys up. Or sometimes the listing agent will leave a lockbox on the property and the keys will be gently tucked in there for as soon as the buyer is able to go because they've given all their money to you. But the problem is, you need to know that stuff ahead of time so that you can plan for exactly how you're going to do it and see if you need somebody to help you facilitate getting those keys. Also asking your lawyer whether or not somebody else is able to pick up those keys at your direction so that you're not just waiting around like, shoot, I've got to get out of work so I can go get my keys, but my boss is looking at me because they're like, I think you're closing on a house today and I don't want you to have fun. Do what's good. Make sure that you look into that sort of stuff, and that way you won't have those last minute headaches. Something else I just thought of, hey, overlap. What's that mean? Making sure that you have two places at once. Now, a great thing where I am, Ontario, Canada, it's so cold up here all the time. Is that mortgages are paid in arrears, meaning that you don't pay that first month of your mortgage if your mortgage cycle is monthly. You don't pay that first month of mortgage until the end of the first month. Being at that, you don't have a mortgage to pay for the first month. Now, if you're coming from a rental, you have also paid last month's rent likely. So you have a month where there's two places that you can live, either one of them, that you don't have to pay for. So why don't you just overlap them a bit? Even if it's a week, who cares? Gives you time to move in, do all the cleaning, switch out the toilet seats. That's a good tip. And then you don't have to worry about the stress of getting everything in, because here's another thing that you might not think of, but you will not get those keys very first thing in the morning. I always tell all my clients to make sure that they schedule that move for the day after closing. That way, if there's any issues or hang-ups and you get the keys late in the day, which in Ontario, again, you have until 6 p.m. to have the deal officially closed by the lawyers, you could be waiting too long for your keys. And you don't want to show up with a moving truck sitting out front of a house that you don't have legal right to be in yet, let alone getting the keys. So make sure that you don't hire movers for that day, and make sure that when you do hire movers, you've got the keys in hand for that time. Make sense? No? Doesn't make sense? I thought it made sense. All right, well, the only other thing that I want to talk about is what about your stuff? Every move. I remember every single move that I've ever taken as an adult, and I know that 90% of them, something's gotten wrecked, scratched, dinged, messed up, and it sucks. I remember when I was in such a state that it bothered me that a lamp got broken because the bar snapped. And it bothered me because I'm such a careful person, and I'm like, Brandon, you're such an idiot. Why? Make sure that everything of value to you is wrapped appropriately. Hire some excellent movers. If you need some in the GTA, I have some awesome ones. But the biggest thing is you want to make sure that you anticipate things breaking, scratching, getting dents, that sort of thing, so that you're not crushed. That it's like, my favorite table. Why did we put that big stone on it? It scratched the whole thing. All right, guys. Well, that's been enough tips, and hopefully you don't mind me yelling at the camera, but if you want a little more of this, can you do me a big favor? I need your support. Subscribe, hit that bell icon so that you can get notified of new content as it comes out, and make sure that everything that I tell you, you write down, or just call me and I'll give you the lists. All right, reach out on any social at GTAHomeGuy, and we will see you next time. Hey guys, quick clarification I want to make there. As far as making sure that you have that overlap and that payment that I was talking about, where you don't have to pay your rent and you don't have to pay your mortgage, well, as far as that goes, you don't have to pay your rent, but the mortgage portion, you're actually going to have something that is called an interest adjustment date. So there is a little bit of a minor payment. It's a little bit of interest as well. Talk to your lender, because you will likely have to pay taxes in advance, which could increase your budget for the first little while that you're in the home. So as far as that goes, you don't have absolutely $0 coming up, but you have no big, large payments, and that's that.
Reach out in any social at GTAHomeGuy. I did that.